Fidelity Fortune Hunters, Tom Wilmot. We've done some review videos on Fidelity's Active Trader Pro on our YouTube channel here, Vineyard FX. And as many of you know, I spend more time on the Forex and in futures than I do with this platform. But there's been a tremendous response. We've had over 5,000 views of our videos about Fidelity, and I'm very pleased with that, and thanks a lot for your watching. I thought we'd just do a quick review here of a couple of new items for you in the midst of all of this market craziness that we're going through and all the difficulties associated with the virus, of course. So I've got a couple of things to share with you about the platform as well as a quick review, so hold on to your hat and we'll get started right after this. Okay, friends, for those of you who are new to our series on Fidelity's Active Trader Pro, let's go through a quick review of some of the issues that we face here in trying to learn how to use the platform effectively. We've talked about this one a lot, but let me show you again. If you move your cursor up into this area here, you can see that a small line appears and then the cursor changes to a double arrow. If you left click and grab it, you can drop your chart down. Likewise, I like more margin on the right. Same thing over here, a vertical line appears and the double-edged arrow appears and you drag it back and there you go. Now we're in better shape. I'm not going to go through all the how you set your time frames down here. Suffice to say today, this is a daily chart of the Qs, which is the NASDAQ replica in the equities market. It trades during the day, whereas the futures trade all night long, 24 hours a day from Sunday afternoon until Friday evening. But you can see what's been reflected here. Of course, throughout from July, except for a little bit of pullback here last summer in 2019. By the way, we're recording this on the 3rd of April, 2020. And we did have this pattern emerging here, and we saw that we had a nice uptrend to the all-time highs. And then, you know what broke loose. I mean, it was just a catastrophe. For the markets. It took us all the way back down and wiped out everybody's nice 401k gains that they'd had over the last 2 or 3 years, really. Now, what I wanted to share with you, first of all, in this video, as many of you know, I have done a number of videos on the Forex market and using Metatrader and the multiple moving average strategies that I've developed. And I've described those in a new video and, in fact, a book called on Amazon Kindle called Forex Power Surge. Only reason I'm mentioning that to you is that it's not terribly expensive at all, and it does give you several of the templates that I've developed and used over on the Metatrader platform for trading the Forex market. Now, the reason I mention that here is I have also, both in TradeStation, which I use for futures, and in ATP here from Fidelity, we use for equities and options, I've developed a template that I called Super GMMA Quick. Now, the reason for that, and I want to describe it to you here, is to show that if you have this set of longer-term moving averages right here, and I believe these are from a 30 to a 50 EMA, then that kind of sets a cushion in place underneath an uptrend. Your longer term invest and hold kinds of people are in this range right here, and you can imagine that your traders and scalpers and even weekly swing traders are in this area. And what I noted in that template is very simply that when you have this band appear here, that's a very strong uptrend, as this is now a very strong downtrend, and that reaching down into that void is a place where there's a potentially great entry because you know what your stop loss is going to be, down under the bands, and so forth. and you can prepare yourself on a daily basis for options and so forth. Now, the problem with options right now is that things are so volatile here that even if you were to pick a weekly option and try to get in on a Monday with an expiration on Friday, it's going to change direction 16 times in a row until things settle down. Very, very difficult to do that. I would also like to point out that if you are reasonably new to more frequent trading, you have to keep in mind the day trading rule, and that is you need $25,000 in your account in order to close out a position the same day you enter it. So you get bad marks against your account, and I think you're up to 2 or 3, and then they freeze things and so forth. All sorts of nasty stuff going on there. So you really, in order to take advantage of options in this market, you need to be able to hold at least overnight, or potentially with SPX, the Standard & Poor's kinds of contracts. Some of those cash settle at the end of the day, and then you stay out of trouble with that. But it's more complicated, and it takes some good background and options to do it. So in any event, I just wanted to say that this causes some problems here beyond what looks like just total devastation of the market. Now, as I mentioned, we're recording this on a Friday, the 3rd of April, and we just had a bad jobs report as well as unemployment yesterday. So you can see here in this area, we've had a down day after an up move and then a push into this area. But notice this is holding to the downside here. So up into the bands, can't even get the longer term investors to nibble here. I mean, not definitely turning around. So I say that suggests some caution is in order here. Once again, we've done other videos on a number of the issues like the indicators here and so forth and so on that we put in place. If you want to change any of these, you left click and you get a modify, delete, or add in here. And down here, I'm using my RSI. Notice that when we had this pullback, the RSI held between the 45-55 bands and so forth. So those are just some quick tips of review that I wanted to share with you here. And now I would like to compare a couple of other kinds of instruments. Let's take a look now and see how badly the SPX has handled this. By the way, the Qs are the NASDAQ kinds of technology stocks. They obviously didn't do very well. The same thing is true here on the SPX. That couldn't even get up into the bands more than a nickel's worth. Now, the stop losses on this daily are very huge, so you can't really trade that, without taking huge risk in your account. So be very, very careful here. I'm not suggesting to get into it. I'm just saying that from an overview point of view, it sure doesn't look like we've got things under control yet. That's for sure. I would also like to share with you that if you think about head and shoulders patterns, here was the low, obviously, that we've had. Whether we have to revisit this low is a question mark. You could make a case for the wings on this head and shoulders being in this area here, but it doesn't look to me like if you were to draw this particular vertical that we've really, cut up through any kind of a trend line and are headed higher quite yet. So while you want to be careful of short covering rallies that could, hold you at risk if you're in a short trade of some sort, whether it's options, puts, or whatever, just take your time. Now, the other thing I would like to say is that when you get into these markets, depending upon your cash equity position and so forth, you can also change your time frames, and let's take a look at that. So we've seen the daily. Here, let's take it a 10-minute chart, which automatically will change. Notice that even in this area, the downtrend never turned up. This compression of the bands, the longer-term bands, was a close shave, but really we didn't get the reversal that many people thought we might be looking for. Okay, that's the SPX. Now I wanted to show you another one to show a different type of pattern, and I'm not shilling for Nvidia here, but this is quite a different kind of look, although they had some up moves as recently as the 30th and 31st when we had a little bit of a move higher. You can see that this 10-minute chart showed some promise, and then we reversed. Notice here was our pattern emerging again, up into these higher level cushions, but no dice, and down we went. Now we're struggling to get through. Notice we haven't really reversed our longer term multiple moving averages, and you can see that I've simply plugged those in up here and just added them one at a time from 30 to 50, however you'd like to do it. My lower time frames sometimes are in the 12 to 24 area. I think actually these are a little quicker. I think I went from 6 or 9 up to 15. EMAs again. So that's how you build this particular template. Then you can come up to here and save it in one of these formats here, save the chart, and then it would be available to you as you switch charts, time frames, and as you move from one kind of look of the template to another. Okay, now what I did want to do was go back here to show you how you could notice a little different pattern here with Nvidia. Let's do the thing. Sometimes Fidelity is really annoying because it makes you, do things twice or three times that you really wanted to just do once, like move your margins around. One of my criticisms, by the way, has been that if you get to a tool set like this and you want to draw a horizontal line, and let's say we put it here, it comes up as this oddball green color. If I wanted to change this and make it a different color, unfortunately in this platform there's no default, so I'd have to come back the next time I do a horizontal line and do it all over again. I've complained about that 50 times, just get no response. So anyway, the more of us that say, can't you please upgrade some of these features, the better off we'll be. Not personal fault of the nice guys on the hotline, but we have to get behind the curtain there a little bit and see if we can't stimulate some activity on the upgrades. Okay, so enough complaining on my part. I'm going to get rid of this now and remove it. So that's another quick lesson. But what I wanted you to notice was here. Notice the difference in this day chart from the SPX and the NASDAQ even. Very neatly kind of upside down head and shoulders. What we did see here, and I'll draw this for you so you can see it. Let's see, there's my, that's a regression channel. What the hell's going on? Here we go, trend line. If we come across to here, and we draw this trend line down in this direction, and I will change the color so you can see it more clearly. Notice that if we were to take this and we were to go to this original up move and then down, what happens in this is that when you get this crossover, that's a little more exciting sign that maybe this equity is going to, not have to dive down and retest the lows. So once again, head and shoulders pattern emerging here. Keep your eye on this line here and, kind of test it day by day to see how we're doing with stocks like Nvidia. Okay, folks, that's enough for this one. I don't want to drone on and drive you crazy. Once again, check out that description in the video description below here. I'll give you some links back to our website if you'd like some more information about any of the indicators that we've been using over on the Metatrader side of things. It's also a link to our new book, that Forex Power Surge, on Amazon Kindle. And if you are kind enough to read that and leave me a fair review, happy to send you a PDF of the book so that you can expand the charts on your own computer as well as Kindle. So without further ado, I hope you will trade safe, be safe, stay healthy, and see you next time.